Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over a bunch of leaked information and images for the upcoming FPS game called Redfall. Now before we get into all this information, I first want to go over that all of these leaks are pre-alpha footage for very early play tests for the game, and in some of these screenshots you can even see some of the dev tools in the builds of the game they're currently playing on, like having different stands you can go spawn different enemies with. So none of this stuff should be taken as this is what the game's going to look like, this is what graphics will look like, this is what the UI will look like. All of that type of stuff is going to look significantly different when the game is fully released. The main thing I wanted to go over in this video with these leaks is the general overview of the game, the overarching designs of the game, and that sort of thing, instead of looking at the graphics or UI or any of that stuff. Also keep in mind that these are leaks of that very early footage, so this is stuff the public should have never seen anyway. Now when Redfall was officially announced, it didn't come with any gameplay or tons of additional information. It came with a CGI trailer, then a little bit of a description of the game, and the description was an open world FPS game, and combining that with the CGI trailer we got, most people thought, including myself, that it would be something similar to say Left 4 Dead or now Back 4 Blood, with all these characters with their own specific abilities. But going over this leaked information, it's seeming that Redfall is going to be much more along the lines of a looter shooter, like something like Borderlands, with different unique characters with their own abilities, loot rarities, a big open world, boss battles, and a lot of the other stuff you would expect from a looter shooter. Now for me, learning Redfall is going to be a looter shooter and less like something like a Left 4 Dead game, that actually makes me much more excited for this game, because the looter shooter genre doesn't actually have a lot of big games that have good staying power. Pretty much the only big looter shooter games still left are Borderlands, which isn't a live service game, so you can almost take that out a little bit. You have Destiny 2, you have Warframe, and then you have Division, and it seems like Division is not doing so hot these days either. So having more games being developed in that looter shooter genre that have the possibility of becoming really good games that actually stay around for a long time gets me pretty excited. Now the original post with all these screenshots and information doesn't exist anymore. I do have all the screenshots, which I will be putting just throughout this video so you guys can see them, but there's also still a write-up on Reddit that gives some of the information that was in that original leak. So I just want to go over some of that more interesting information. So first off, under the information categorized as gameplay, we have overall, it sounds like the game is shaping up to be Arcane's take on the looter shooter genre, taking influence from Borderlands, but with Dishonored-like powers, and Arcane Studios, who is making Redfall, also make Dishonored. Then some of the information specifically from that first initial leak: an open-world hero-based looter shooter with co-op and solo play, with various forms of missions around the world, as well as fast travel and safe houses, very Borderlands-esque. The heroes each have unique abilities which are reminiscent of those found in games like Dishonored. You select a hero-type pre-made character from the roster, 6 in the test, unknown if more are coming, and their unique abilities are improved via XP from kills and missions. Now I'm assuming with it being a looter shooter genre, I'm assuming that your abilities being improved via XP from kills and missions, you'll most likely be having some sort of skill tree or some way of upgrading and customizing your abilities like you would normally find in looter shooters or other games that have RPG-like systems. Now before we get into the rest of this Reddit post that compiled a lot of the information from these leaks, which I will also have linked in the description, I want to go over some additional information that was taken from those initial leaks that don't exist anymore, because there was a bunch of articles written about this, and I found some additional information that seemed to be in those original leaks. So the gameplay and the loot/leveling/adventuring loop is being described similar to Borderlands, but with an open world, albeit one with no loading loading screens, so more open world, less sectioned off zones that you have to go through a loading screen to go in between. The map is supposed to be the size of something like Fallout 76 or Ghost of Tsushima, which is actually pretty large. Comparing it to something like Fallout 76, that actually has a really big map, and there aren't a lot of looter shooter games that have an actual open world where you can go throughout pretty much the entire world with no loading screens and have the size of something like Fallout 76. So that is very interesting, and I'm hoping that is something that is kept once a game is fully released. It's solo or co-op with 6 playable characters that have at least one unique hero ability. Now, from all the information we have, I think it's 1 to 4 players, but I am also interested to see if they have any planned content that lets you have all 6 characters playing together at the same time, because if you go to something like Destiny, you can go do raids with bigger player counts than you normally get in instance content. Stealth is an option in gameplay, or you can go guns blazing, so seems to be something they're keeping from Dishonored. Enemies include both humans and vampires, and there are Borderlands-like major boss fights, so you're going to be able to have big boss fights. I know they're comparing it to Borderlands here, but pretty much every looter shooter has big boss fight set pieces, and most RPGs also have that in as well. Also, a lot of this information does come from these leaked screenshots. Now, after I get done going over some of the more interesting information in this Reddit post, I will go over a bunch of the screenshots at the end of the video, and the video will also be timestamped, so if you want to go to when the specific screenshots are, you can go to the different timestamps. So next up on our abilities, we have characters appear to have 3 abilities each that are bound to Z, X, and V by default. The V ability appears to be like the character's ultimate. It seems that these abilities also have to be unlocked one at a time. Jacob's abilities are as Raven, Invisibility, and what looks like a Dead Eye type of ability. Remy's abilities are Bribon, an ability with a mechanical icon and an ability with a flag icon. And this is just because this is coming from screenshots and we don't know exactly what all these are. Dev's abilities are an ability with a crossbow, an ability with a disc icon, and an ability with a windmill icon. Layla's abilities are Parasol, her lift, and an ability with a running icon. So just a little bit of information we have here. Most of it is just the ability icons themselves, but these different classes or characters you're going to be choosing are going to be a big part of the customization of the game and are going to have a big impact on your playstyles. Next up, we have gear. Character gear includes guns, armor, medkits, remnants, and mementos. The icon for mementos is a ring. So what it's seeming like is they're going to have a large amount of different gear pieces to chase, and they're going with having your guns and then also having full armor sets. A good amount of looter shooters will opt out of going for full armor sets with stuff like rings or necklaces and stuff like that you would find in normal RPGs or fantasy RPGs, and go more for having, say, a few different guns and then a few other gear pieces that do specific stuff. So comparing it to Borderlands, they don't have armor sets, they have your weapons and your shield mods, your grenade mods, and all that type of stuff. Characters can also carry keys, lockpicks, wire cutters, and bandages, probably for environmental interactions, which is very interesting because a lot of looter shooters don't have that type of stuff. That is something that is much more reminiscent of something like Left 4 Dead, which I think adding that type of environmental interactions or utility type of gameplay could definitely add a lot to something like a looter shooter. Characters can carry up to 3 weapons at a time. Weapons come in tiers and can have a level requirement, so what you'd expect from an RPG. There are potentially 5 tiers, and higher tier weapons appear to come with additional perks such as increased accuracy or higher damage. So again, something you'd expect from an RPG based game. Weapons showed include the Heat Civilian MO1 assault rifle, UV beam, the light gun shown in the trailer, hammer, which is a handgun, and stake launcher, the stake gun seen in the trailer. It appears that all characters can use all of these weapons. One piece of armor shown is the tactical vest, which also seems to come in tiers. So just talking about that, it's showing that there will be different rarities or tiers of items that give additional perks for the higher tiers they are. They show some different types of weapon and stuff that's also shown in the CGI trailer. So most likely everything in that CGI trailer, all the different weapons and abilities that are being shown from the characters will most likely be in the game and you'll be able to use. Now, like I said, I'll have this Reddit post linked in the description. This also goes over every single screenshot and kind of explains what is seen in it. I'm not going to go over all that stuff on this post, so if you want to check that out for yourself, like I said, it will be linked in the description. But I do want to go over some of the screenshots I found more interesting, and I will also show all of the screenshots even if I don't end up talking about them. So I'm just going to go quickly over all of these screenshots and some of the information that could be seen in them. So the first one seems to be a main menu where it shows you can host or join different games. You'll be able to have up to 4 people. You'll be able to change to your different heroes in this main menu. There seems to be 2 different currencies at the top with a item shop, which I would most likely assume would be for something like skins or something along those lines. Not 100% certain on that. Like I said, most of this stuff will change in some way for the launch of the game. Most likely all of it will change pretty significantly, so I wouldn't worry too much about that stuff until additional information is shown. Then we have a screenshot of a player's perspective using a revolver. You get to see some of the user interface with the compass at the top, your health and your ammo and your level at the bottom left, and you get to see a chunk of a very unfinished map on a beach with a crashed ship and a big lighthouse. Now I just want to reiterate, this is stuff that the public normally wouldn't see if it wasn't for leakers. This is incredibly early. Even in this screenshot where they're playing isn't close to being done. Everything is going to look substantially different once the game is fully released. The UI will look different. The graphical quality will look completely different. You can tell even the lighting and the shadows aren't fully implemented and completed. All the graphical quality is going to be much lower for these testing purposes. So keep all of that in mind. Like I said, I just wanted to go over an overview of what the game will be and not UI and graphical stuff that'll be changed massively over the course of development. For the third screenshot, we have someone on a test level. Like I just went over, the game is very early on, and this is showing someone on a legitimate test level. And here you can see a little bit more, someone using another revolver. You can see the actual looting on the right side, which shows them that they picked up a tactical vest, so an armor piece. You can see their health. You can see how their different abilities are lined up on the left side now. It's like what was mentioned, Z, X, and then V, which seems to be their charge up ultimate ability. Next, we get to see the in-game UI for one of the weapons, and this requires level 40. You can see a scrap value on it, and scrap seems to be one of the in-game resources that you get from scrapping weapons. On the tooltip and on the actual weapon card itself, you get to see a overall rating, which will most likely be something like gear score or item level in a lot of other games. You get to see rate of fire, reload rate, magazine size. Then you have the 3 perks. This one has additional charge capacity, increased accuracy while moving, and increased petrification speed. And then a little description is a beam weapon which fires concentrated UV light. And this also has a orange color to it. So I'm assuming this is something like a legendary weapon or an exotic weapon or something like that. Probably a more high tier weapon. I think it was mentioned that there were 5 tiers, so most likely tier 4 or 5. And seeing stuff like this is what really gets me excited for these type of games. Next screenshot, we get to see from another player's perspective, and this time we get to see someone using an assault rifle that has different attachments on it. So it looks like it has some sort of muzzle brake on it. It has an attached bayonet. It has a hollow sight on it. And overall, the model of this weapon actually looks pretty decent for how early these shots are on in development. And the weapon does look pretty unique, like it has a cool looking camo on it. And I'm not sure if that would be something you'd be able to apply to all weapons or if this is just how this weapon looks. And also, I'm not sure if there will be attachments you can put on your weapon. So say if you can put different sights or muzzle brakes or stuff like that, if they will have that type of customization or not, or if this specific weapon is just how it comes. Again, you can see all the character UI stuff. This is a different character, so it has a different Z ability, X ability, and ultimate. Next up, we get to see some of the UI for the character's inventory, and we get to see the 3 weapon slots, a revolver, this stake launcher that seems to be a low level legendary type weapon with all the different stats and different perks like we went over at the first weapon we went over. At the left side, we get to see some of the different utility items we were talking about before. The backpack, which seems to be how much much you can carry, 5 out of 25. A key ring, a 0 out of 3 for lockpicks, 0 out of 3 for bolt cutters, and then 0 out of 3 for bandages. Then we get to see with the UI, you have loadout, which is what tab they're on. We have skills, map, missions, and archive, all pretty par for the course for games like this. Then if we go to the right side, we have a armor slot, we have a med kit slot, we have 3 remnants, which also look like they're rings, so I'm not sure what those would be in down there. And then we have 1 memento, which seems to be another ring slot, so I'm not sure what the differences between those would be. I'm assuming remnants are something different, which you'll be able to have 3 on at once, and then memento is going to be that actual ring. And something to note, these look to all be not consumable items, but just different equipable items, because the medkit also looks to be its own item with a level on it, with a power rating. So it seems like, at least this early on in the game, you'll have 3 weapons, armor, medkit, 3 remnants, and a memento as your item customization. Next up, we get to see another screenshot of a player's perspective with a lot of the other stuff we mentioned. Now, the thing that's more unique with this screenshot is it's showing a character in third person. So it does seem like the game will mostly be in first person, but in some ways you'll be able to play in third person. Now, I'm not sure if you'll just be able to switch out when you want it, or if it'll maybe be something like Destiny where some specific things will put you in third person. Like say if you have a sword out in Destiny, you'll be in third person, or using different abilities that'll put you in third person. But it does seem like there's in some ways going to be first and third person in the gameplay. Next up, we have another perspective of a player using one of the UV weapons that we went over. Now you get to see everything normal we went over. This is a different character with some different abilities at the bottom left. But here we also get to see someone picking up different items at the right side. And we get to see a blue UV beam weapon and then a green hammer handgun weapon. And this also does show off how you'll see the different tiers of weapons, because there are the little lines showing these 2 weapons at the right side. So a green, most likely something like uncommon, has 2, so it would be second tier, and then the blue one, or probably rare, has 3 out of 5 tiers. So pretty similar to most other RPGs. Next up, just another screenshot of a player's perspective. Everything we already went over. This one does seem to be a little bit high of an FOV, but the weapon they're using does seem pretty unique, and it seems to be some type of like railgun or very high damage, low ammunition weapon. The thing is massive, looks really unique, looks all kind of taped up, but then if you look at the ammo at the bottom left, they only have 5 rounds. So I could definitely see this weapon being some super hard hitting, low ammunition, low fire rate weapon, but it does look really unique and interesting of a weapon model itself. Next screenshot, we get another screenshot showing a similar looking AR. Now, like I mentioned before, I'm not sure if you'll be able to customize your weapons with different attachments. This one has a different looking bayonet and a different looking sight, with another AR that also has a different camo on it. So again, not sure on how much you'll be able to customize these different weapons. Then we get another screenshot of someone using a revolver. Seems to be at a different portion of that beach type area. Next screenshot, we get to see someone with a different pistol. Looks to have a silencer on it, a different character with some different abilities. And this one is also showing off how early in development this is, because on this level, they have these podiums here where you can spawn different enemies, enable or disable different things, and enable a mission. I think this kind of shows that this was very early on, like I have mentioned multiple times. Next screenshot, we get to see the inventory again. Everything we already went over. This does show a rare weapon or a purple weapon, which is tier 4 out of 5. Just a different AR with different stats. Pretty much everything else is the same stuff we went over. So it's pretty much all the information I wanted to go over for these leaks for Redfall. Like I said, very early on, I mainly just want to go over and showcase the overview of the game and not criticize any of the in-game screenshots for super early builds of the game. Like I said, I'm very excited. I'm much more excited that I know that this game is going to be a looter shooter style of game. And it is also exciting because of who is making this game. It's made by Arcane Studios, who's mainly known for all of the Dishonored games, for Prey, and most recently for Deathloop. And pretty much all of those games are very highly rated and have done pretty well for themselves. So I'm hoping they can continue that trend of making good, highly reviewed games with Redfall. So subscribe if you want to see more Redfall or any other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about Redfall being a looter shooter. And thanks for watching.